Good afternoon and welcome to TalkSports. It is our weekly weekend program where we speak with the movers and shakers of sports, the sportsmen, sportswomen, sports administrators, coaches, just about everyone involved in sports. And welcome to our program this weekend. And this weekend, our special guest is Mr. Jason Skeete, who will be speaking to us in his role as a commentator, sports commentator in Grenada. And Jason should be with us momentarily. Also, I should have with me my co-host in Toronto, Mr. Rudian Sylvan. And as usual, our fans who will be at least probably throwing some questions, comments, whatever it is, as it relates to sports. Right. Folks, lots happening this weekend, particularly as it relates to sports, not just in Grenada, around the region and the world. Obviously, track and field is holding the spotlight because there is the NCAA going on. There is the Diamond League. The professional circuit is on as well. So our college athletes are in competition. Also, our professional athletes. And there is also domestic sports as football. Yes, football is really heated up in Grenada. And no doubt, lots happening. I think this weekend there should be some football in Carriacou, the clash of the Grenadines. Grenada versus St. Vincent the Grenadines on Sunday in Carriacou. Right? It's the second time, I think. Yeah. Always, every time it happens, it's usually in Carriacou. Right? Clash of the Grenadines. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they journey to Carriacou, Grenada journey to Carriacou, and they meet at the Midi Stadium. That's this weekend happening. Grenada versus St. Vincent the Grenadines, their international friendly. That's taking place. Ooh, lots happening. Oh, FA Cup final also taking place today. FA Cup final. City versus United. Well, there's much I have to say again about that. We are the champions and we will take it away. Let me welcome my good pal from Toronto as we await Mr. Skeete, who will join us momentarily. Good afternoon to you. Well, morning rather, still, man.
Good morning to
Yes,
you. So how you doing? Please
I'm
be
fine.
careful with my team. Please, okay?
I
All
know,
right,
I know,
please,
I
please,
know.
please. I know
Well,
we're struggling a little bit, but don't do us that.
well,
We will bounce back.
well. The fact is that it's just the start of the second half, and
Yeah.
United is already leading 2 goals to nil. But
See,
City has a way of
I'm
coming
coming
back.
back. Yeah, but we will hold that two lead. We will hold that lead.
All right. Well,
It will be a
good,
nice lead.
good
How
to
you
hear that.
doing, man? How you doing?
I am fine. And how things on your end?
It's good. It's good. Just a little rainy today. Finish up our city, our metro championship yesterday for
Mhm.
track and field. Now we're
Okay.
getting ready for the Ontario championship, which is the whole of Ontario high school. In the next 2 weeks or so, they're getting ready for it. So it's pretty
Okay.
good. We got some NCAA qualifiers going on. My athletes will jump in today to qualify for NCs, and yeah, so
Right.
it's good. Sports after sports after sports as a
Right.
season.
Yes, that's what it is. It's a time of the year when it's really hectic. It becomes
Yeah,
hectic, right? And then it's an Olympic year, so lots happening.
so much is
You
going
know,
on. There's
you
always
know.
the questions in track and field with our neighbors, the Jamaicans, and we haven't seen some of them compete yet. And they always the question what's going on. Are they healthy or those type of things. Certainly, we see what Sydney McGuffin can do.
Right.
And we saw last week that she shows that she's not only a hurdler anymore,
Yeah,
but
quite
certainly
quite a
she
bit as an all-rounder,
mhm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, she certainly put in the fear in some people, boy, because she looks good.
Yeah. Good morning, Jabez Pierre. Good morning to you. Certainly it's a pleasure having you up very early. Thanks very much for being on. Well, I got up and I was looking at the Giro d'Italia, that's cycling, road cycling.
Yeah,
It's a grilling, you know, cycling race of the mountains and Italy and Slovenia, and that is going on there. There's T20 cricket that's on. I was also looking at some Australian rules football, and then juggling
Yeah,
between that and
juggling between back and forth. Yeah, 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 yeah.
FA Cup football. So normally
Hmm.
on my Saturday morning, I try to get up very early and try to take him as much as possible.
Catch
Let
as
me
much
see
as
if
you
I
can.
can welcome our guest, Jason Skeete. Jason, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Bascom.
Yes,
Just
good.
trying to sort out. I just want to make sure that you're
No,
hearing me and you're seeing me.
we hear you very loud and clear, Jason. We've seen you very clear indeed, and it's a pleasure
Thank you.
having you. And certainly, we'd like to hear from you this today. As we said, you're a special guest on our program as probably the main sports commentator for Grenada, and looking at the role of the commentator as it is now, and some of the challenges you face in that role in particular. I know it has been very challenging over the past few months, in particular, doing the cricket, sometimes probably football, but particularly track and field of recent. Some of the ins and outs, the pros and cons, all these things. I mean, I can't say I'm a veteran of it, but certainly I've hung up my boots from that for quite a while. And I know it can be very frustrating, Jason, but always a pleasure having you to speak about that.
Thank you very much. And Rudian, hi, good morning. I know this is probably the second time that myself and Rudian would have met on this
Yeah,
forum. So even
definitely
though
a
I
pleasure to
always
meet
follow
you.
you guys every Saturday, good morning, Rudian, and thanks again for
Yeah.
having me, Mike.
Yes, Jason. So let's start off about getting yourself involved, particularly in the sports commentary, because Jason Skeete was never in the commentary per se. I mean, you were a competitor, table tennis in particular. I think you tried lawn tennis. Well, let's not get into that. But, Jason Skeete is known, we had Jason Skeete, Jason Sanders Claus, right? Table tennis and things like that. So, but how you got involved in sports commentary per se?
I tell you what, I made a conscious decision that I always wanted to be around sports, regardless to what happened. And you're right, I played a lot of sports. Not so much lawn tennis, but yes, table tennis, a lot of basketball, a lot of cricket. I wasn't the fastest guy to the finish line in athletics, but I was one of the quickest men off the blocks. And I always say that if the 100 meters were 80 meters, then I would have had some gold medals, but and a lot more gold medals. But I've always been a sports enthusiast, and I tell you this: I made up my mind. I made a conscious decision that when my knees get a little too weak to handle the pressure, and the power in my hands go from the loop, the smashes, and the drives, and the jump shots, I still wanted to make a conscious contribution towards sports. And being involved in media at a very young age, I started my media career when I was 15 years. Um, the door was wide open for me to, just go right into it and get involved in sports commentary. So for me, it was inevitable. It was the writing was always on the wall. It was something that was just destined to happen. If I have to say that.
Mhm. Well, and over the years, in particular, you became more and more involved in the actual sports commentary, right? Particularly within the last 3-4 years, and then we had Pastor Warm, who was basically taking on the senior role until such time that he had the health challenges and things like that. So, and then you became the forefront of commentary, sports commentary in Grenada in particular. Football, cricket, and I think there is a very interesting part about cricket in particular because you said that you didn't know much about cricket and cricket commentary itself, and it's a sort of funny story. Probably you can share, and then we'll go on with that. How you got involved with cricket commentary?
Yeah, well, I played a lot of cricket. I played cricket for GCC. I remember me playing cricket for GCC was a fun experience for me. It was more of we meet, we come together, we have fun as cricketers and whatnot. And I remember playing cricket for GCC, And what happened was, even after those playing years, I said, you know what? Let's find a way to make this more interesting. And I went to my good friend Paul Roberts. Now, a lot of people don't know, but Paul Roberts was my father in terms of my broadcast career. Um, Him and my father was a national cricketer, national footballer, and all of that. And Paul and my dad were really good friends. So I went to Paul and I said, listen, now that these playing days are over, I want to get more involved in cricket commentary. And he said, but you played cricket. I said, of course. But I don't understand a lot of the positions on the field. I know the basic positions, but to do commentary on it, I don't understand how to be fluent about it. And he sat me down and he said to me one day, he said, listen, in sports commentary, you can only say what you see. You can't say what didn't happen. You can only say what you see. So let that be the basis. And understand that in cricket, you have the creativity to create some positions as you go along. Because you have a C limit on, but you could have a straightish C limit on. You could have a wideish C limit on. So you have that leverage. And then once he brought all that to me, he sat me down for a couple of days. And that was where it started. You know, I did some work with former Grenada cricketer Anthony Dixon. I remember one time at Progress Park, I went up there and we did some cricket work. But my real serious cricket commentary, where I started to take it to the next level, only started about 2 years ago, believe it or not. But I've always had the knowledge, but I decided to get more deeply involved in it just about 2 years ago, when I realized that my good friend Pastor Stevenson Wom was not around anymore as he wanted to be because of his health challenges. And I said to myself, no, Grenada can't go down like this. Somebody had to step up. And so I called Stevenson Wom and we had a conversation. And he himself and Reds Pereira has been, believe it or not, those two has been my major guide, along with a good friend of mine, John Ramsing, out of Guyana. So those three basically have been my major guides in the last couple of years: John Ramsing, Stevenson Wom, and Joseph Reds Pereira.
Surprisingly, you didn't mention your good pal in Trinidad. What's his name? Swimming coach, the former swimming coach. And
Anil.
yeah, but you mentioned about your dad, and I think you were speaking about Michael Seeley, the former goalkeeper, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So and Michael Seeley was a former national goalkeeper, and obviously I know Toro is listening. Toro will want to say a Wharf boy as usual, as he says. The Jasons are Wharf boys, eh, Bas? They formed an unbeatable table tennis team with Makajo and the late Jeff Linton. So I assume he's speaking about the days when you all dominated table tennis and having to come up against the guy from Guam, the Wagi T and Michael Duncan and company and things like that. So we'll get into a bit about your playing days, particularly table tennis and things like that. So, but Jason, I know growing up, the Carnage, the Wharf, you know, this sort of, and even, well, I mean, I'm from River Road, so there was always this stigma, right? That coming from these areas, these communities, is almost like a no good, okay? And somehow, Jason, some of our best sportsmen and sportswomen came from these areas, right? The areas that they tend to term, and the terminology, and sometimes drug infested, warlike, and all these sort of things. I mean, look at the Junior Murray, and you know, when you look at the Wharf and the Carnage, some of our top table tennis players, footballers, you know, all these sort of basketballers came from this area. Some of them would have moved to other areas, but they originally from those areas. You know, tell me what it was like growing up in a community, as you know, the surrounding of the Carnage, the Wharf area, but then transitioning into what you are today in terms of one of our top sports commentators.
But Bascom, and let me share this. The fact of the matter is, these tough situations would do one of two things. They either bring out the best in you or they show the worst in you. That is what these tough situations do.
Mhm.
And for me, I've always been a driven guy. I don't wait to be motivated. I know how to, thank God for that. I know how to motivate myself. I know how to pick up and say, no, enough is enough. I need to get this done. Um, there are times when you feel a little bit, down, but like that happens with everybody else. And you've got to just dust yourself off, lace up your bootstraps, and just put one foot in front of the next and keep going.
Mhm.
For me, growing up in those areas, I tell people this. When people start to talk about things like this, I tell them, Harold Tyson, look and see where he was from. Lou Smith, check and see where he was from. Troy Garvey, Anthony Greenwich, Jericho, um, Lincoln Toro Depredine, one of our top journalists. I mean, not because he's my friend, but that's a fact, right? When you sit back and you look at some of these people and you follow their history, and I'm calling these folks names not because I want to be disrespectful to the others, because there are a lot more who was from within that vicinity and surroundings, whose name I didn't mention, don't come to mind right
Let me
now.
let me help you with one. Ashley Hines, one of our top technical, personnel in Grenada, right? Broadcast
Ashley Hanks,
Heinzo, right? Yeah,
one of the best broadcast technicians,
yeah,
audio technicians that you would find.
yeah.
Um, so when you go and you look at where these people came from, they all came from around that area. And I always tell people some of the best radio personalities. Paul Roberts. I mean, a lot of people. Paul Roberts grew up on Williamson Road. You know, so a lot of these people came from that upbringing where these tough situations either brought out the best in you or the worst in you. And for me, that is what it was. Yes, the Carnage back in those days were known to be drug infested and whatnot. But even the folks who were quote unquote involved in that kind of stuff, they were particular when it comes to us as youth men in the area. I remember, God rest his soul, what's his name, Roger Depredine, Wazim. Um, he was known to be involved in his stuff. But every time he saw me walking Tyrrell Street at, well, what is H.A. Blaze Street now? He would look at me and say, hey, silly boy, make sure and go to school, Don't call school, Let me see you skull in school, And so it was like, while they knew that what they were doing was what they were doing, they still wanted to make sure that us as youths within the community, we had to make something better of ourselves to lift the community nose, and they were insistent on that happening. So they played a role. They played a major role as well.
Rudian, certainly a lot from Jason still to come, I
No,
should
no,
say.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot that, come from your area. I mean, if you go back in the modern time, look at Kirani James and look where he's coming from. So, you had to look at that at the same time. But let me kind of bust your brain a little bit and just pick your point of view. You've seen sports from so many years in Grenada, not only in track and field, but all sports. How do you see the future today compared to back then in terms of the attitude in the athletes that we have compared to the attitude in the athletes then? Um, so what I'm saying today, they have the everything to get better. Back then we didn't have that. I remember lifting stones for weights. We're taking cement and putting it in a paint can and putting it on a bar, and that's our weight. Today, that's no longer there. But how do you see the future in Grenada sports moving forward?
We have a lot more at our disposal now, and we should be doing a lot more. And I'm using my words carefully here now because people know me to be very particular about my words. We should be doing a lot more. We have the potential to do a lot more. There are a lot more at our disposal to make sure that we do a lot more. But for some strange reason, I think a lot of the times we find ourselves being bogged down by selfish egos, many a times at the detriment of the sport. And I make, honestly, I make no apologies for saying that. Sometimes our selfish egos allows our judgment to be clouded, and the sport suffers. And I do believe that um, history is going to bear me out on this one day. But when I look at what my father had to do and my uncles had to do and some of the people within the neighborhood and some of the national sportsmen and women back in the day had to do to get recognition, we now have a platform that opens up the door for us, that we don't have to fight to get that recognition. It is right there staring us in the face, and the world wants to see, the world is ready to see. So we have that to our advantage. What we are lacking, I do believe, is that inner love and dedication, that selflessness for the growth of the sport. Far too many a times, selfish egos and money. While money is important, I think money a lot of the times is the driving factor, not for the athletes, mind you, but for some of the people who are involved in it, even from the front office. And I think that that is killing our sport. That selfishness is killing all our sports. Um,
I
I
mean,
don't
you've been
offer
around.
criticism.
You you
I don't
you,
offer
you
criticism without offering a solution. And I do believe that it is important that all these sporting organizations need to stop now, take stock and say, hey, how can we do this? Let us do this and let us move forward. Even if it means, let's say, you know what, let's wipe the slate, start a fresh, clean slate, and let's go from here. But our athletes are suffering when they shouldn't be, because we have more at our disposal that we could be doing a lot more for them. And
no,
I say
definitely,
athletes, not
because
just sprinters, but all our sportsmen and women.
all of sports, yeah. I mean, definitely, and you kind of key on something there because you have seen, and I've seen how, especially in football, how it build communities. And I mean, I don't hear much about that happening now as it used to be, um, for some reason, you know. Um, and yes, we have a lot of fields, especially they light up now, and we using that to say let's play football late at night. Like before, we didn't have the lights. We play at 4 o'clock, 4:30 game, and it was still, as you know, the committee still come out. Now, you know, well, let's play late at night. You know, I understand if you play two games, then you have a late game, but sometimes you don't have that. But let's play late at night because it's the same job. People doing the exact same thing that back in the days. Nothing really changed in terms of work wise. But now let's play late because we have lights, and then you don't get the company coming up because the kids got to go to school. The parents have to stay home with them, so you don't really get that anymore, right? But that those things used to build community, and I've seen it, but I don't really hear that anymore. How community really come out and push. Hurricane, man, the whole squad used to come up to four past here, Moncraven ground when they playing Eagles or when they playing Not Stars. You know, it's no longer there. You don't see the buses and buses of load going following teams anymore like before. So, like I said, they have to get back on the structure, get back on the table, and figure what is it about? Like I said, is it about money or is it about building the sport and getting the everybody involved? Because that drive us to want to play football. Is that drive? I don't see that drive being there. We want to play football like before. You know, so certainly something have to change.
Um, Jason, for the past 3 months in particular, you have been engaged in particularly track and field. So let's just look at the track and field. I know you did some cricket as well, you know, but particularly with in the track and field, whether it was school, whether it was intercall, up to recently, I think last weekend, the Whitsuntide games. Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of the high points and low points you want to talk about, seeing as we, towards the end of the season, and especially in terms of the commentary and things like that? What are some of the high points and low points you want to highlight?
Our athletes are magnificent. Our athletes are fantastic. The potential that we see, that I particularly saw from our athletes, I am beaming with confidence and pride, knowing that one day you're going to see, and one day very soon, we can see a couple of Grenadians lining up at the 100 meters track for the Olympics. I believe that. I mean, there are some under 13s that I saw. There are some under 11s that I saw. There are some under 9s. In recent times, I've seen Cameron Mathlin, this young fella from GBSS, Emilio Blanco Bishop. He's a young man, but he's big, and with his physical structure, some proper speed training, because he has the power in him. Now with some proper speed training, this guy is running 10.48 already, and that was 10.48 against the clock. That wasn't 10.48 in a competition. I'm saying that to say that these young men, the Deleron John, these young men have so much potential. Grenada is standing on the verge of one of the top 4x4 relay teams that I've seen in the region in recent times. The guy from SAS, Mengi, what's his right name? I can't remember his right name. Yeah, take on Peter Kin. The same Mathlin guy, Sam. These young men
And
are.
there's also Justin Sylvester.
Josh, okay. That's his name, Justin Sylvester. That's Mengi. Justin Sylvester. That's the name I was trying to remember. These young men are standing at the doorsteps of Olympic glory. I kid you not. Right? They have what it takes.
But here lies the problem.
Right?
Yeah, the problem. Going to the problem.
Yeah.
We have the potential. We have seen that over the years. We have seen so many men and women, young girls, young boys, with the potential. But then, somehow the structure didn't allow them to exceed their potential. Okay, some of them went into colleges, as a matter of fact. They did well in colleges. But then somehow the system, there was not a system and a structure to allow them to extend their potential, as the Kirani, as the Aline Francisque, or even probably the last person we had as a female out in the professional arena would have been Hazelland Regis. Okay, in terms of a professional circuit, right? Hazelland. When you look at it as it,
we have this young lady, Kelsey Muriel Ross.
Well, yeah, at college, yeah.
She's at college now, but she has the potential to be one of the best field athletes in the region, in the world.
Jason, and that is true, and I keep saying,
true, yeah.
We have a lot of potential.
She just broke the record. So she's the same school with my athlete, right? So yeah.
Right. We do have a lot of potential, right? We have seen it, and you have seen it, and that's why I'm asking you, because you were there front and center for the season, right? Even if you may not be doing the commentary, somehow you're looking on, right? And I'm saying that to say the potential is there. How do we harness that potential to ensure that the Kelsey or the Cameron or the Jossem, etc., they are the next in line to the Kirani, James, the Anderson, Peters, Lyndon, etc., and not once forgotten, because they may get into the colleges and then a year, 2 years from now, frustrated and out. And we have, I have seen.
I tell you what I believe has to happen. there has to be, and this has to come from the Grenada Athletic Association to start with. There needs to be a serious program that we can refer to, not just what we've been using, because clearly what has been used is not aiding our athletes to get to the next level. So I don't want to hear, I know a lot of people say, well, yeah, we have a program in place. I don't want to hear about that, because the fact of the matter is we've been using that, and that has only been able to take us so far.
Yeah.
We need to develop some kind of program now that will be able to take our athletes to the next level. Maybe, and I made the point a few weeks ago on this program as a contributor via text, fresh ideas, fresh perspectives, fresh thought patterns do at many times require fresh personalities.
Well, in fact, someone reminded me about your statement last night in conversation with someone. They said, remember Jason's comment about fresh perspective, fresh ideas, fresh.
Yeah.
That's what they were saying,
Right. And I tell you this, Michael, and I tell you this, guys, not to downplay any of the sacrifices and the roles that many of the people who were there in the past played, because we have to understand that you're gonna this is athletics we're talking about. So let's get down to the terminologies now. The baton has to be passed, right? You ran a good leg. Now let's pass the baton and let somebody take it to the next handoff point, because somebody else will be waiting at that point to move it further. I guarantee you that is going to happen.
All right.
So
let me just get some comments there for because I think it's something along the line that you're talking about, and it probably will aid in your thought pattern. Neil said Jason is so correct, but lack a national plan progress for these athletes. And Chenny is saying it should be a policy of government to engage all associations in discussions on where we want to be in the next few years and how to get there. With that being said, support must be given to ensure all potential athletes are treated as national treasures, and support given. What we are doing to ensure this is the case presently. And finally, Donna Joseph is saying, yes, Grenada has a lot of young potential athletes, but our system is failing them miserably without the right support system, especially the Grenada Olympic Committee and the other athletic association. Continue, Jason.
And say what? Because, I mean, the three comments that you just listed there really says it all. Yeah. Because and it's not that people are not seeing. People are seeing what is happening. People are not fools. They see what's happening. They know what's happening. And very soon, what you're going to find is that if we don't put this system in place, God forbid, what is going to happen is that a lot of our athletes now will start looking for the opportunities outside of Grenada, and many a times it may very well mean them switching allegiance. Can we afford that?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah. But I somewhat played a role in the new policy, right? That the sports policy that is not out yet. And I'm hoping, and I believe that a part of what I spoke about will be in there, that there will be benefits for athletes in Grenada, or Grenadian athletes, not track and field only, but all potential. I believe see if it's something that they put in place. But I based on my understanding, there is some benefits coming in for potential athletes that can help them move forward. But we just have to wait and see the policy when it comes out.
The other thing has to do with but the other thing has to do with is not just what is in it for the athletes. And again, when we speak about athletes, we're talking about sportsmen and sportswomen. But ensuring that there's a system in place that can support the sustainability of sports in Grenada. For example, and Jason spoke about potential. There was a relay team from the Westerhall Secondary School a few years ago. In fact, they were the Penn Relays. I can go as far as say I assisted along with Mr. Ken Simon and others in their being participating in the pen relays. Okay, getting them to practice and getting them to Pennsylvania and all these sort of things. So, and these guys were probably the best we have had for recent times, I would say, around that time, probably about 5, 6 years ago, could be more. But that's when Wester Hall won Intercall. And I mean, they were so impressed with them that some of them got scholarships, right, from the pen relays. But if you ask me where are the athletes now, I cannot tell you where these athletes are. And that is what I'm saying. Because we do not have a system in place, right? No matter what support we give them, because you don't have system and structure in place, somehow it will doom for failure, right? And I'm saying probably a lot of resources went into supporting them, etc., right? But somehow, somewhere or the other, I remember I caught up with one a few years after, and I asked him, well, what's happening? Boy, I give that up. I give that up, man. They had nothing in that for me. That was the response, eh? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know the circumstances, so I can't really say, boy, you should not have done this and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I just have to accept it. But I'm just saying, and that's one of many. For example, look at Amanda Crawford, female athlete. And I mean, I can call her name because why? I recruited her, right? Amanda was one of our best talents in terms of female of recent. If you ask me, where is Amanda Crawford now in terms of track and field? All I can tell you, Amanda is a professional in terms of what she is doing. She has moved on and she has a career, But she had interest in continuing to represent Grenada in track
Yeah.
and field as a professional athlete. But again, I'm saying the system does not allow. We need structures in place to ensure that we can exhaust the potential of these, not just track and field, but whether they are footballers, whether they are netballers, sportsmen and sportswomen in general. So,
and it's something that is circling across the board, because the situation is also here right here in Canada too, where the system is not designed for some of these athletes. They go away into schools and running very well, and they come back and there's nothing for them unless you are the elite, including the Olympic standard. Let me use this for an example. Here in Canada, the Olympic standard is, if the Olympic standard is asking for 10, it actually is 10. I think is 10:20 or something like that. The Olympic standard. Canada wanted to run 9.9. That's not the Olympic standard, but they want you to run that.
but I
So
guess if
the athletes do not have no opportunity. So
but
they
I
figure
guess
I can't do it, and they're done.
okay, but I guess the Canada believe that if you can run that, then at least you'll be on the
They're
podium.
thinking of,
But
and that's the problem. But that's where the problem lies, right? So
but
if you're
Jason,
thinking about that, then you're losing athletes.
getting back to the original point and the point that you're making though and developing is that, let's say all the systems are in place. Let's say the structures are now in place. How hopeful are you that what we have in front of us in terms of potential, and I'm not talking about, by the way, not just track and field, because you have done cricket yourself in terms of commentary and you would have seen some, outstanding cricketers. How and we are seeing that in terms of those who are progressing onto the Windwards, onto West Indies youth teams, etc., etc. How hopeful are you, or optimistic are you, that if things are put in place and they are correct and in order, that sports for Grenada, probably the next 2, 3, 4, probably 5 years, will be on a good trajectory?
I have no doubt about that. I have absolutely no doubt about that, because I think that is what we need to get our athletes to the next level. We are hovering, we are flirting with this level for too long, you know. And I believe that once that system is in place, our athletes will get to the next level. Because even from, and I tell you this, even from a broadcast perspective, I keep telling these organizations, um, the cricket associations, the athletic associations, the basketball associations, I keep telling them how we sell our athletes to the rest of the world will determine how the rest of the world reacts and responds to our
Yeah.
athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And by the way, Jason, and you saying that, I mean, I heard you said it on, during the commentary and thing, because it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook. I mean, and people are viewing it all over the world, right? It's not 10, 15 years ago where it's just on a radio station and it's only people within that geographic area that will be hearing you and things like that, right? Probably 10, 15 years ago, even when you were not, the radio stations were not streaming, as a matter of fact, right? It's only a certain geographic area and people within a certain geographic area will be able to hear what you're saying. Now it is worldwide. If you're on the moon and you have access to the internet and you can pick up the stream, you'll be able to follow it. Whether you're in Australia, because we do have people, whether it's in Australia, India, Pakistan, no matter which part of the globe you are, you can tune in and hear it. So the point you have been making about selling, very important. And I think every time you get the opportunity, you have been speaking about it, but I don't know if the organizers, the association, are responding to that request.
well, I've been told that there's a component within the sports policy that deals with the broadcast of a lot of these games, and
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I do believe that the extensive work that has gone
yeah.
into the sports policy is something that requires a lot of credit, a lot of kudos,
Mm-hmm.
because it is not an overnight document,
Policy.
right?
Yeah.
It is detailed. The little bit that I've known about it, I haven't seen it in any extensive detail, but the little bit that I've been privy to tells me that a lot of work has gone into it, and it will have some teeth. Um, Having said that, I go back to the original point that I keep making, as you rightfully say, that when scouts every time, let me tell you this, and whether people want to think it or not, is since Kirani James, everybody, all these scouts and these colleges, since after Kirani James and Arlene Francisque and the Rondell Bartholomew, a lot of these people are looking to Grenada now for the next athletic superstar, the next 400-meter superstar. After Junior Murray, a lot of the selectors started to pay attention to the cricketers coming out of Grenada and the Windward Islands. A lot more attention, I should say. After the Jason Stanislaus, then we realized that Grenada had all this potential there bundled up, and then we started to see more representation at the Caribbean Championship table tennis level and that kind of thing. I remember we going in and winning OECS, hosting OECS tournament here in Grenada, winning, coming back, right? So I'm saying that to say that for every one high point that we have, that we stand up and ball Grenada to the world, nutmeg 473, for every one of those instances that we have, it turns another eye onto Grenada looking
Well,
for that particular sporting discipline and the
yeah. Well, look.
superstar.
Well, in addition to that, because when we had Letitia Cato in netball, for example, that was a situation where with Letitia Cato. When we had Anderson Peters with javelin, then they started looking who's the next javelin, from Grenada. Lyndon Victor with the decathlon. So you're correct about that. Whenever someone stamp an authority in a particular field, internationally, regionally, internationally, there is this turning of the heads in terms of the direction of Grenada. Who is the next one? So certainly at the time of the Kirani, Rondell, and Braylon Taplin, for example, everyone was saying, wow, in terms of Grenada as a small island with probably 3 of the top quarter milers in the world at the time, you understand? Everyone was saying, Grenada is next. Grenada is it. And that's why they were looking for things like a relay team, for example, and all these sort of things. But
I
let
think we
me,
missed that opportunity there. Not
well,
that it has left us, but I think we missed an opportunity there for an Olympic 4x4 medal. But that's water under the bridge. I'm hoping that we will, if the opportunity presents itself again, we wouldn't lose it. Because I mean, let's look at this. Let's look at it this way, Michael Bascom. Kirani James has been one of the top 400-meter runners in the world for the last 12 to 15 years. And think about it. Are we really serious that we have not structured 3, 4, 5 men around him to win an Olympic medal? Think about the opportunity that we've just lost there, right? But I'm saying that I mentioned it for what it is worth, but I'm not going to harp on it. But going back to the point that I was making, how we sell them to the rest of the world, and I'm saying this to say now that I want to give credit to the primary school, the organizers of the National Primary School Athletic Championship. Let me tell you something, these people, let me tell, and this is what I want all the other organizers, the sporting organizations to understand and follow. A couple of days before I, as the lead commentator, got to the stadium, I received emails, I received phone calls, and my package was sent to me electronically. This was what is my package: a list of the sponsors, a list of the schools, a list of the colors that are associated with the schools, the top athletes in every division, their times and their distances, their schools and their coaches, and the clubs that they would represent if they are associated with a club. I also received a preview, an initial starters list, knowing and understanding that that starters list could change on the day because clubs and schools do their shifting depending on their tactical layout. But we got that, and that came to me via electronically. And when I got to the stadium, because I would normally get to the stadium at least 2 hours before the start of the event, and that is another thing I'm going to share with you. A lot of people that don't understand that. When I got to the stadium, my package was there in a manila folder with my name on it, waiting for me. And I stood there in awe for a good couple of minutes saying, who are these people? Where they come from? Them is not Grenadians. And then somebody said, oh yes, they are Grenadians. They are teachers associated at the primary school level. And this is the kind of meticulous system that they deal with. And when I saw that, I was like, are you kidding me? And I have to give credit also to the Grenada Principals Association as it relates to Intercall. While they were not as detailed as the folks at the primary school level, they were detailed. And they sent up a few students from the Boca Secondary School. I can't remember their names. We had, at the broadcast, we had 6 students from the Boca Secondary School, 6, that were assigned to our broadcast booth. And all they were doing was running.
Well, they call them runners. Yeah, they call them runners.
Results here, times here, updates here, this here. And this information was being fed to us to the point where you just didn't have to think anymore. You knew the information was coming. And so I have to give them a lot of credit for that, because a lot of people sit back and you see what you see on television. But there's a reason why, and credit to Richie Olivier and his team at TNR Communications. A lot of people, when they ask me, is TNR Communications an international organization? I say yes. TNR Communications is an international organization, but they are homegrown. They are from Grenada.
And home based.
home based and homegrown, but they are international.
Yeah.
And when you see the kind of detail that goes into this, to the preparation, you have cameramen checking out angles, you have people walking the track checking out angles, you have drones up and down the place trying to get, okay, how do we get this angle? If the commentator is talking about the cruise ship as part of your fillers, what angle do we take on the cruise ship terminal? The Sanssouci Hills, the Dabo Hills, the Gravel Heap Hills. How do we take these things and all these little bit of ins and outs, this meticulous, all these things play a role that when we turn up on the day of the broadcast, I always tell people there's a reason why you get what you get. We do not have a lot of people expect the NBC, ESPN, CBS type broadcast from us because that is what people are growing accustomed to know. That is what they're seeing. But we don't have those resources. So when I say that I get to the event sometimes an hour and a half, 2 hours before, is because, and let me give you an example. When Intercall finishes on D1 at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the night, I am at the stadium until after 9:10 because I have to make sure and put together my stats for to start the day the next day. I have to make sure and sort out my time, sort out the athletes, get their names. If I get the opportunity to have a brief conversation with them, so I can have that, so that when I come back the next day, I have a head start. And even though I leave there 2 hours after the event, I still get there another hour and a half before the event starts in the morning because I have to inspect the track because people expect me to say something. I have to inspect this, where the blocks going in, the this, the that, the finish line, the angles. We have to do these things as commentators so that when we go there to speak, people know what to expect from us. And that is just the day of the event. I ain't talk yet, Michael and Rudian, about 3 weeks leading up to the event. Because a lot of these metaphors, a lot of these phrases, a lot of these exciting things that you hear, these are not things that come off the top of my head. I'm not that bright. These are things that I have to go back, research, rehearse, look at all Olympic games, listen to some of their terminologies, hear how they refer to certain things, put my own twist to it, listen to how they analyze some of the races, see what are some of the similarities that I see in Grenada, and that goes for every sport. Right now, my mind is stuck on cricket because I have cricket coming up in a couple of weeks. So what I've been doing and what I will do for the next couple of weeks is focus on T10 and T20 cricket. So I'm in that zone right now. So this is a lot of the detailed preparation that I get involved in so that when I sell these Grenadian sportsmen and women to the rest of the world, they know this is what Grenada has to offer. This is what we're selling you. This is what you're going to buy.
Some comments coming in. Why is it though, Neil Wells, why is it though that other countries and clubs outside of Grenada can see the potential of our coaches but struggle to gain the recognition at home? Donna says, this has been going on for donkey years now. Some of those young men and women, well, they're catching their tails if they were ever even chosen to the national team, especially the athletes from outer parishes. Some of them had to fend for themselves, were in preparation, and lots of other athletes came from post-single families who couldn't even provide for transportation to get to, to St. George's for training. The whole issue of, transportation back and forth. Mr. Simmons, Patrick Simmons is saying, the next level for these athletes should not only be viewed in the context of achieving excellence on the field, track, basketball, etc. What's about qualification for coaches, therapists, administrators, etc., to assist in the overall development of the structure, right? Chenny say, Patrick Simmons, you are correct. Sports has many career opportunities, but the structure to attract persons in those must also be a deliberate strategic plan, right? Donna says, great point, Jason. And Photo is saying, Haran, it has a lot to do with and how we showcase our athletes as well. If we aren't proud of our athletes' performances, achievements, eventually incentivize them by way of sponsorship, then who will be? It is time to blow our own horn and sell the beauty and story of our various sporting disciplines. I think this is one somebody's teasing you, so you rehearse. Good night, good night. That was epic. So in place, entertaining. For an excellent job. Now I understand. Pele is saying, I wish the commentators got a similar package from the Principal Association for Intercall with the correct names of the convents and not their locations. And Goti Robertson is saying, I have not been so excited to be on for the start of your program. In my opinion, Jason's a professional sports broadcaster, second to none in the Caribbean. But if you're second to none in the Caribbean, Jason, may I just ask you a question? How come you were not, by the way, were you invited to be on the Carifta team, commentary team?
No, I was not.
You were not. Okay. I mean, I was in Grenada. I had no part to do with commentary or anything like that. So, but I was kind of concerned that there wasn't any
I can't see
Grenadian.
why. I
Okay.
can't see why. I'm not quite sure if it was above my pay grade. It was definitely not above my competency, but I'm not quite sure if it was above my pay grade. But I was not.
Yeah.
I was not in that.
Because
Mm,
normally you want to have a local person when you have these sort of activities, as part of the commentary, the panel, right? Whether it's cricket, it's like West Indies hosting World Cup cricket, and there isn't a commentator from the West Indies. You understand? I know they outline the broadcasters, the commentators, and the for the World Cup, and Ian Bishop is on the main panel, and then you have the others, the Ganga and Badri and others on the others, right? And things like that. But you have the main panel, and Ian Bishop is obviously representing the West Indies. But I can't understand how you have something like Curve the Games, and you do not have a local input, someone who has been basically following the local athletes, as you say, right? Um, for the you know for the season, for the entire season, basically, and you will not invite them to be on it. That's that's bothering. But as you say, it's above your pay grade.
Somebody
Um,
with a bigger role must have decided otherwise. But I I would have been more than happy to even do it for free.
but I mean, it's not just doing it for free, but I mean um, ah, the courtesy.
yeah,
Okay,
we get it. We get
yeah.
it.
I'm losing some thought because I'm looking up on my monitor and I noticed that United just won the FA Cup 2 goals to 1. I know
Thank you. Thank
I'll
you.
have to take some trash talking after the program, but that comes with the territory. But Jason, so looking forward, you seem to be still up despite all that you outlined there. You seem to be very optimistic about sports in Grenada, right? And I want to respect your views, and certainly because you have been looking on, you have been there at most of the major championships, whether it's track and field, cricket, football, whatever it is. So certainly there's some sort of optimism from you, and you there, you bringing it into the homes, of the public. So some people perspective on sports in Grenada will come from what you outlining, what you're speaking about, the the names of the athletes in particular, for example, and these sort of things like that. So in summary, how optimistic are you that, and again, I'm saying, let's say we put everything in perspective, we put the structures in place. We have our National Sports Council, the Parish Sports Council, by the way, that are now in place. But importantly, those structures that we have been speaking about, right? Um, by the way, before I finish that, I think let me say good afternoon. It is afternoon now to Keith Fletcher, because he's saying, "Well done,
Yeah.
Jason. Lovely to get an insight into the approach you take to your profession. Sorry, continued success to you. Thanks for the discussion, Michael." And I had to bring in Keith Fletcher then because we know Keith Fletcher, was one of Grenada's most talented football players back then, the like of
Keith was
Dougie Drayton and
Keith was
others.
Keith
Yeah,
was a fierce
yeah,
striker. Keith
right.
and Keith did more than football. Remember, also played basketball at secondary school level because we were in PBC together.
Yeah,
He was a few
he was
balls
an
ahead of me. Keith
he was an
was
all rounder, right?
Keith
I
was
don't want to
was
get.
the Skellati of all these.
I
Keith was
don't.
the Skellati of all these.
I hope Toro is not reading that because I know Toro will come and write an essay about that. But getting how optimistic are you, Jason, that with all these things and including what Keith just added there, that we are seemingly shifting into the right direction. Seemingly, I say, because there are signs that, and you outline the potentials, right? We have a lot of potential. So that is one aspect of it. The potential, we have it. We don't. As a matter of fact, I don't even think we have to look for talent. We do have the talents, right? In the various, whether it's table tennis, basketball, football, just name it. But making sure the structures are in place to guide these talents into exhausting their full potential. How optimistic are you?
I am very, all things even, all things in place. I am very optimistic. My level of optimism is beyond any shadow of any doubt. All systems in place, right? I do believe, and from all levels of sport, from every sporting discipline, from cricket to football to basketball, athletics, table tennis, everything. I believe that once all things are even, we will we will see a serious upsurge in a lot of our athletes going to the next level. One of the things that I want us to pay attention to, and I want all these athletes who will listen to this at some point, who will hear this at some point, you have to get involved in proper management because you can't do everything. Some athletes have some good parents who knows a little bit about the business side of the sport that can aid them. But one of the things that you're going to have to get involved in is serious management. Management meaning how you train, when you train, what you eat, what you take part in, um, when you take part in it, when is the best time for you to peak, when is not the best time for you to peak. Um, zeroing on those different levels and those focal points. You're going to have to get involved in serious management of yourself to begin with. Every cricketer, take for example, we have T10 cricket coming up, and credit to the Grenada Cricket Association. We know the names of all the players already that are going to be associated with every team. So I have open on my computer now a window for for a tab for every player, because the reason why I can do that is because his information is listed. I say that now to make the point that a lot of the other sporting disciplines have to get involved in archiving the success and the achievements of the various individuals. I must be able to look back and say, 5 years from now, when Cameron Mathlin wins an Olympic gold medal, I must be able to look back and say, in 2024, he ran this and that at the um, Whitsuntide Games. He was this and that at his school sports. I mean, I must be able to look back and see all of that as a commentator and have that at my disposal. We have to get involved in documenting and charting our athletes' um, journey, because that is going to help them. We can't sit back and rely on one or two people talking and say, boy, like people coming to me and say, boy, your father was a real good goalkeeper, for a short man, that man used to make height. But nobody could tell me how many goals he saved.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
people
We
talk
lack the
about we talk about
stats.
people talk about Paul Roberts and how phenomenal Paul Roberts was in his day, but nobody could tell you that Paul Roberts saved. He had X amount of saves for Grenada. He played how many matches for Grenada? What was his average as it relates to saving goals on a per match basis? We need to know those things,
Yeah,
and for every sporting discipline. So we have to get involved in documenting our athletes and our sportsmen and women's history as we go along. That too is going to set up the thing so that people could know, hey, if a scout comes to look at an athlete and that athlete is having a bad day, the scout must say, well, okay, yeah, he's having a bad day today because a few weeks ago he did this, last year he
Yeah.
did that, the one before
yeah.
he did so and so and so.
Mhm.
So I could understand he's having a bad day, but as it is now, he's only going to be judged based on what somebody sees at the moment. And that is an injustice to the
Just
athletes
yeah,
as well.
certainly, yeah. And that's
You know,
the stats, and I think if it's one thing we can give the North Americans is that they're
Mm-hmm.
very good on statistics. They
Oh,
can tell you, they can tell you when LeBron James was in high school, you know, how many matches he played, how much he scored, you know, all these sort of things. In high school, he's been professional almost 20 years now, right? But that is how they deal with stats. And I think it's one of the things that we certainly lack in Grenada. But by the way, it's another aspect of the sports policy.
Yeah.
Someone, I know the sports policy deals with having someone directly relate to stats. But it starts also with the associations, yeah. The
The
national
association. This is the
associations,
responsibility of the association. The
yes, they
association
must,
has to,
they must,
yeah,
yeah.
the association has to do that because, take for instance, I'm asking, and sometimes they do have it, right? But before I start the intercall broadcast, I went to the stat room and I said to them, "Hey, I've been looking for the stats of the winners for the last three intercalls. Can I give me a printout of the winners for the last three intercalls in the various divisions?"
Mhm.
And I ain't get it yet. You know, intercall done how much months now, and I ain't get it yet. The point I'm making is, it has to be there. You have to understand many a times, and this is one of the things that I wanted to raise, Bascom. A lot of people look at the broadcast now as, nah, don't worry, man. The fella just talking, they will figure it out. It is bigger than that. It is bigger than that because now everybody is locked into their television screens, their monitors, their phones, their devices. And when you say a race is going to start 11 o'clock, people want to see this race at 11 o'clock, 11 latest. And when you're speaking about a broadcast, you have to understand that how fluent the broadcasters are, how fluent the commentators are, how equipped the broadcast communication team is a reflection of your event.
Yeah,
It's a reflection of your event. So
and
you have to furnish us with that information, and you have to do it in a timely manner, and it must be done consistently.
yeah, but then we also have the situation where organizers believe that yes, we want to bring the meet, the championship, the event live, and that's it. Or we just leave it up to the broadcast team to deal with that, you know. And then you have the public now who will look at
What do you
probably a
mean? You
ES.
talking stupidness? Boy,
No,
move
no,
from
no.
there. You're calling wrong name.
But but
If my back
no,
wasn't broad, you
no.
think
But
that
then we have those who will look at the ESPN and the NBC and thing, and then look at the Grenada context and do the comparison. You know, these sort of things, right? And that's why I'm saying that you do have a lot of challenges that people may not be aware of. Okay, in terms of getting the information, and whether it's ESPN, Fox Sports, NBC Sports, whatever, they they have a period for preparation, right? As a matter of fact, NBC Sports do some of their broadcasts in a remote location. They're not on site. It's a remote
Yeah.
location and some in a studio
Yeah.
with all the camera, well, I mean the feed, the
monitor.
broadcast feed,
Yeah.
the monitors, but they have all the information in front of them, right?
Yeah.
So they're getting a monitor that feeding them the stadium, that feeding them the track, that feeding them the field events all over, right?
Yeah.
And but they're doing it from a remote studio. They may be in a
Mm-hmm.
remote studio in Los Angeles, for example. Sometimes I know, for example, they at the indoor, when they're doing the indoor in New York, right? They're actually doing it from the broadcast van, the vehicle that is parked outside.
Outside. Yeah.
It's air conditioned, it's well equipped, everything like that. And they're not inside the venue, but they're in the broadcast vehicle, right? So sometimes that is the situation. Yeah. So Jason, I want to thank you very much. It has been a pleasure. We have exceeded by 10 minutes our conversation, but it's always a pleasure having you. And certainly, I'm hoping, as I always do, open the door, leaving the door open so that anytime you want to come back, we can come back and discuss other issues as relates to sports. It's not just
Thank
about
you.
track and field, but we're talking about sports in general. Some last words from you, Jason?
Yeah, I just would love, and I'm saying this here both to you guys, Michael and Rudian. I would love to see the various associations take a more serious, systematic approach to how they go about dealing with their particular organization. Um, Introspection. I mean, you have to be honest with yourself and say, you know what, hey, Tom ain't making sense no more, boy. Tom, we had to go if we had to do this. You had to step up, shape up, or ship out. We had to do that from time to time. I mean, we could dance around and flirt around the issue as much as we want to, but the fact of the matter is, for us to go to the next level, we have to be able to do that. I do it even as it relates to my commentary, the work that I do. I sit back at times and I listen back to some of the things I say, and I say to myself, hey, I find you talk a little stupid in this day, but you have to step up on that. You have to, and I rehearse my stuff. And even as a radio announcer, sometimes I go on the air and I record certain segments of my show, and I say to myself, okay, you make a little fumble in this news here, so maybe you have to watch your pace at which you're reading, slow down a little bit. Maybe it's time for you to change your melody and the things that you see and that kind of thing. So I go through that from time to time. I am on a constant improvement drive. I kid you not, because I made up my mind from a very young age that I want to be the best in the world at what I do. I may not get there before I die, but I sure as hell gonna be aiming at that target, right? And and that has to be the approach that we have to take in life moving forward. You have to want to be the best, and
Yes.
that would be my advice to all the associations. You have want to be the best association and work towards it. Don't just sit back and wait. And as it relates to the powers that be, the people upstairs in the office, the government officials and whatnot, while I want you to start demanding more from these organizations, I want you to start demanding more from yourself as well,
Yes.
right? You have to do that. Um, there's some funny positions that I'm watching that I'm not too fond of. So you have to be able to sit back and look and say, hey, maybe this ain't making sense. Maybe we need to readjust this. Um, I believe even from my own perspective as a sports commentator, I'm always deep into preparation mode. I always go deep hard into preparation mode. Sometimes I stomp on a little bit of corns now and again, because when I go into my preparation mode and I know what I give and I know what I prepare, I have an issue with somebody just coming, sitting down on the day and swinging it and winging it, and you're not going to make me look like an idiot. I'm not going to get paid to look like an idiot, right? I could do that for free. So um, I do that myself from time to time. So that's my story. At the end of the day, I want to wish all the sporting superstars in our country. I don't call them athletes. Very rare. I call them sporting superstars, because we have local superstars. I want to wish them all the best in every discipline, and don't stop. Don't stop. It's constant. Don't stop. Don't stop.
Yeah.
Don't
All
stop.
right then.
And I hope to see some of them in sports broadcasts later on in the night.
Certainly, it's my wish as well. Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
All right.
All right, really,
Thank you.
thank you, man.
All
Yes.
All
right.
right, no problem.
So that's Jason Skeete, our sports commentator, and I call him renowned sports commentator in Grenada, speaking to us, and certainly quite a lot. Rudian?
Certainly, certainly knows what he's talking about. A lot, he gave his opinions on a lot of things. That is, certainly a lot of people's opinions as well. But certainly he prep himself, and I wish we all can do that. I mean, as an official, I do that. Days before I go and double check, make sure everything is settled in. But everybody else does it. Just want to make sure that they take a piece. Those who are listening of the
Yeah,
things that he's doing. Certainly.
yeah, and basically to give an idea too of the sort of
Yeah.
preparation, because there are people who just believe that, oh, those guys just go and just ramble off, but there are challenges that they do face, and while he may not have gone in detail, right, but he sort of gave a summary of a lot of things,
Yeah.
because if you have to understand that they have to prepare, then you know for them to prepare, they need the information. They can't just sit down and assume, well, who will be
I see what kind
competing.
of assume. Yeah,
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 assume who will be competing. They'll have to
yeah,
get the
yeah.
information. So getting the information is one, and then they have to do the preparation itself.
The
So
preparation. Yeah,
you cannot tell me that, you have a track meet, for example, and a few days before, you can't tell me who are the people competing. I mean, yes, injury, all these sort of things will have a problem. But
and the
at the,
stats. The stats is
yeah,
very important. It needs to have the
that is what
stats for
it's
those
for.
commentators,
So,
man.
but,
Stats is very
but,
important.
and that's why it's important for them to get the information, because even if it means that
Yeah,
they have to get the stats themselves, right?
yeah.
But they will do it, right?
They'll do. They'll
But
do the research. Yeah,
if you can make the process a bit easier for them, right?
easier.
If I
Yeah,
understand.
but
And by
but
the
it's not
way,
only for them. It's just for
but
everyone.
well, what
Yeah,
I'm saying, it makes you as an association or as an organizer, it makes you look good, right?
yeah.
Because the information you give to the broadcasters is that the information they'll share with the public,
They'll share
right?
the public.
And
Yeah,
and obviously it will be a reflection of the kind of association that you are, because
yeah,
certainly the commentators will give credit to the stats, and the association for providing the stats and the information, and it helps in the
yeah.
public perspective, perspectives on you and things like that. So all in all,
And it's
it's
really
very
good.
important.
It's good, like I
Yeah.
said, and I really hope those association, especially in track and field,
Uh-huh.
stats is really important. Like that's big out here. I can go back
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah,
my
yeah.
go way back. I'm talking about the way back, Michael, and I will find my name still in the stuff I did in high school. Here, I'm talking about over 20 years.
Yeah,
Certainly, we have to be able to do the same
yeah,
thing and have that down. So maybe it'll
yeah.
help in the
Because I
future and
mean,
help,
we we
commentators.
are-
Yeah,
we have been speaking to a lot of people over the years, right? And
yeah,
we cannot say that we have stats for them on
for them.
locally, right?
Yeah,
If for some reason if they went to a U.S. college or U.S. high school, that is something
mm-hmm.
we'll be able to find.
We were
So we'll
to
be able
find.
to
Yeah,
put in their name and get something about them, right?
yeah,
A lot of
yeah,
the athletes Jason spoke about, for example, if we don't start now, and probably now is a good
yeah.
time to start.
Now is
If
a
we
good
don't
time.
start
Should
now,
start from yesterday, but
we
now,
will
yeah,
not. Yes, we will lose that opportunity to ensure that we have the stats on whether it's a Cameron, whether it's a Josem, a Delroy, all these athletes in
mm-hmm.
terms of the progression. Because as he made the point, he may have a bad day, but then a coach will be able to look, or a scout may be able to look and say, hey, no. But when we look at his progression over the years, it shows that he has a lot of potential. This
It
is my
does.
guy.
It does. Yeah,
This is my guy.
yeah. And it's
Um,
important too. Mr. Simmons said something too in the chat, and he talking about coaches getting some sort of levels, and I really think it's important.
mhm,
Even going back to with some teachers, even if it's a level one, I'm pushing for that here. But all teachers who are interested in getting at least some sort of level one coaching, and if they wish to, to continue on, they will do it. But I think it's really, really important too for, they're interested in this sport, they're coaching this sport. They may not understand it, but at least if they have some sort of level, it will help. It
yeah.
will. The coaches, and you've been around, Michael. They're coaching for years and they don't have not one level, and they know exactly what
Mhm.
they are doing. And you have some don't have a clue what
Yeah.
they're doing. They love the sport so much, but there's no opportunity for them to go and really, really settle in and actually get some sort of level and move up. But I think some level one, I think the Athletics Association or Ministry of Sports should have for all sport some sort
Yeah.
of at least a level one. And if they wish to continue on, then that's a different thing. They'll find a way, but at least a level one in Grenada for that. Certainly, I think so.
All right then. Thank you very much, Rudian. All the
No
pleasure.
problem. I will enjoy my win today. And certainly, I certainly will enjoy my win. It's a long time coming, so we are climbing back up slowly.
Yeah. And it's a holiday weekend here in the United States. It's Memorial Day on
Yeah,
Monday.
ours was last week, so
Yeah,
yeah,
last week, which was
yeah,
also Whitsuntide in Grenada and the Caribbean.
yeah,
So it's Memorial Day on Monday, which is a
Memorial
holiday.
Day, yeah.
It's a busy day in terms of travel, on the road,
Yep.
flying, whatever it is. It's a day when a lot of people, good weather too, a lot of folks go out to the parks and, have the barbecue. It's actually the start
Yeah.
of the summer for some
They
people.
started this summer. Yeah, it started this summer. Yeah.
Start of summer where,
Yeah, yeah.
you can start doing the barbecue and
Yeah.
things.
Yeah,
The
we
grill,
definitely had it last week. Last week was definitely the start of the summer.
yeah,
And
grills are
there's a lot of grills are out, and for the past 2 days, the weather was, man, it was scorching hot. It's rainy today, but it's summertime, so
yeah.
you're gonna enjoy it. Yeah.
All right, so Goti was saying that Grenada has the most level one coaches in the OECS.
You see?
Yeah, because I
So that's
am.
good. But that's
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
I was a level one coach, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where you start. But then
Yeah.
remember,
Yeah. And then
you have to
you
you
continue
have
on.
to move on, and then you have
You have to
to
move on. Yeah.
maintain your certification by
Hmm.
involving sports and training and coaching, etc., etc. I did the level one. You know,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So Manu beat Man City to win the 2023-24 FA Cup, and it was
FA
a
Cup. Yeah.
shock defeat at Wembley. But
It's
here's the
not a
interesting
shock.
thing.
It is not a shock.
It
It
is a
is not
shock
a
defeat.
shock.
But here's the interesting thing about that. The match could be Eric Ten Hag's last as Man
As
United manager. Come on. I mean, the man win the FA Cup, and it's still, they will still sack him. Come on, man.
I know, I
They will
know,
still
I
sack
know.
him. And
But we see that all the time.
yeah, come on.
I remember seeing this with the with who was that? The Raptors, where they did so well in the next year. They actually was in a plus over 500, and they get rid of the coach. It was like 14-9 or something like that, and it's like, really,
Yeah,
like, for real. It's like, okay,
the season hasn't
yeah,
finished yet with in the Spanish,
in the
the La
Spanish league,
Liga.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Barcelona fired their coach
yeah.
already.
Yes, sir, they gone. It's like, oh my god. And
They're
it's
gone
not like
already.
the old days. It's not like the old days. It's just like, it's easy to get rid of somebody now.
Yeah,
So the old days, coaches just sit around for years and years. Now they get rid of you. You lose. They go based on what the fans is saying too. So
because
yeah.
for example, um, look at the success of Man City over the years, right?
Yeah.
With Pep. If Pep has a bad year, they could decide, hey, Pep, we need a new,
Yeah.
we need some freshness as a matter of fact. But that's how it is when it comes to the professional sports, right?
And
Yeah,
especially these guys didn't get paid a lot of money. And something I watched some organization and I'm saying, but every team cannot win. It's one team, like, what I'm saying. And the coaches is not playing. However, we do get and understand how it is. But some
yeah,
coaches need to go, and I to get some fresh legs in and some fresh blood in, and
yeah. But at
um
least
yeah,
knowing, but if they knew for a fact that United could have taken home the FA Cup,
the FA
talk
Cup,
about
yeah.
talk about sacking him. Should not have been
Hmm.
playing up at
Shouldn't even be
finance.
playing up and out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it should not have been playing up.
Mhm.
I think it'll be like on a sour note that hey, he brought home the FA Cup,
Yeah, for the
and
club,
then
but thank you. You gotta go. Yeah, one of those things. Yeah,
all right. Well, thank you very much, Rudian, and a
certainly.
pleasure as usual.
And
I
it's
hope to
always a
see you,
pleasure.
God's willing. Thanks very
Yes,
much.
we'll talk. All right, have a good one.
Right on then. So, folks, that's our program for this week. Certainly a pleasure. Always a pleasure having you. And I know my Man United fans will be all over the place. At least they took home something. They took home something, the FA Cup, right? And some bragging rights as usual, because winning against City, the neighbors, obviously, will be a huge, as they say, a huge victory. Even though the score line was 2-1, it was a huge victory for them. Congratulations, Manchester United. And as well, congratulations, Manchester City, my team. As I say, the real Manchester. Thank you very much, folks. Always a pleasure having you. Looking forward to your company come next week, God's willing, when we have another program. Always a pleasure having you. I'll let you know during the week our guests or what we'll be discussing. We haven't had an open discussion for the month of May as yet. I don't know if we'll probably do that, but certainly we'll try to have another program come next Saturday, God's willing. Until then, do have yourself a pleasant weekend.